Nitya Dharma and what is the Naimitic Dharma. And also he said that, it comes down to the, chanting Gayatri and all that, and how he gradually, he defeats those theories of Smarta Brahman, and then in between comes Kaji, how he differentiates other dharmas, he brings parallel. It's a beautiful way how the book is proceeding further. And I just look at beauty of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and then we saw, one karmi or Gramedi being merchant, but not, he was so miser that he doesn't want to spend money on neither his family nor children, wife. He want to save the money for the benefit of the children. But in course of time, he lost the boat. He lost that purpose of human life, and how he realizes beautifully again. That is the second scenario we saw. Now we are switching the gears in 12 and starting with another scenario where again the two characters are introduced, and we see how immature Vaishnava takes over, and what happens with him, and the question answer ensuing after that. That's what we are studying. So this is the 8th chapter from that book, and Acharya Prabhuji mentioned that we'll be studying in the 12 and 13. In the 12, primarily we studied only one question. The second question is irrelevant. We'll just see inappropriate. That's what he talks about. Primarily the first question. That is what we are going through that. So the two new characters are introduced here are Nityananda Das Babaji and Haridas Babaji. Now Nityananda Babaji, as Charu Prabhuji mentioned, he is a young devotee, but he is very nice. As we see that he is inquisitive and all that. He doesn't have that ego, but he was overwhelmed with the respect and those things he gets it coming from one village, and so that's what we see that. And then we see Haridas Babaji is an old devotee with 100 years of age, and who has seen Nityananda Prabhuji. He lives in what Nityananda word, and this is what it starts with that. And this is what is the basically okay. Just give me 1 second. So this is what it starts. So Nityananda Das Babaji, he is a young Vaishnava visitor from Baragachi, and as we understand, he is immature, prematurely he is a renunciate. That's how it is defined. Haridas Babaji answering the question, and he is a learned scholar, 100 years of old, and he is basically seen, as I mentioned, Nityananda, Lord Nityananda, and he lives, that is called what Nityananda word. Sometimes he used to visit, mention the Pradyumna Kund, where other devotees used to live, like Lahari Mahashaya and Prema Das Babaji, Vaishnava Das Babaji. These great devotees to stay there. And today discussions are happening at basically Nityananda word. So it starts with the devotee called Nityananda Das visiting this place, and he everybody is present there. And see the beauty of how all great Vaishnavas are present. No Vaishnava wants to take a credit and start if somebody questions. How we see that first question comes to Haridas Babaji, and then he wants that Vaishnava Das Babaji to answer the question. Vaishnava Das Babaji again asked Haridas, saying that you are senior most. So we learn many things. It's not that somebody asks question and we start just answering to show ourselves. We learn many things from this book, the way scenarios are going forward. So this book particularly talks about Nitya Dharma and Vaivarika. That means ordinary dealing. This is the heading of the chapter. So this is the background, and this young devotee has some question. He's humbly, he's a very obedient, humble. He's characterized as a nice person, but he's a premature renunciate. And as we discussed, he comes from Baragachi place. So his question is, how should a person who has taken shelter of the eternal Vaishnava religion act in relation to other religion? So, if you look at here, Lahari Mahasaya, Prema Das Babaji, Vaishnava Das, they are great devotees. So they are follow-up of Vaishnava Dharma. And he comes and talks to them how these the great devotees, how they see other, basically, other religion, how they look at it. And this is where it begins. And let's go ahead with this question. And who the Haridas Babaji is answering. As I mentioned that, it went from 1 to 2 and ultimately comes about Haridas Babaji Maharaj, and he says, okay, I will answer that question. And it starts with that. The first thing is that, to define, this is the religion. It's not 100% bhakti. We are talking about, it's basically a religion. This is a Nitya Dharma, or what do you call Vaivahara? That is ordinary dealing. So, high level as a religious, religious identities is put into 10 component, 10. So first it starts with everybody is a servant of Lord Krishna. So regardless of one is aware of it or not. Very nice, Charu Prabhuji mentioned so nicely. So irrespective of religion, whether it's a Christianity or a Judaism or any other religion or Islam, there's one God. And everybody is his servant, whether they understand, they are aware or not aware. They may call it different name, but eventually he is the Supreme Personality Godhead. So these are the, so that is how, as a Vaishnavas looks into that. Second thing, among 10 features of religious life, this is what I was mentioning, 10 features. These are not directly, going to the pure devotional service, but these are the features, are also part of the devotees. They may not be early in the devotional service, but eventually he will have all those 10 qualities. We'll go in details about it. And then he talks about 3 groups of devotees, Madhyamadhikari and Uttamadhikari. All these slokas as we go forward are only based on these 3 groups of who is the neophyte devotee, who is the Madhyamadhikari, who is the Uttamadhikari. And today this is the first question. And then again there is a Vaishnava relates to 4 kinds of person. So what are those 4 kinds of person? As a Madhyamadhikari, intermediate, it's a mention, Madhyamadhikari. He considers love to the Lord Krishna, that's one. Then devotees, surrendered devotees, number 2. Those are, those people who are not enemies of Lord Krishna, but somehow they are lost, they're lost into this material world, but they have inclination, again, those 3. And the 4th one is envious to Lord Krishna. So these are the 4 kinds of person we'll be discussing about. So then the second question, what are the material activities of a neophyte and immediate intermediate? That's the Madhyamadhikari. Haridas Babaji declined to answer because it doesn't fit suitable, because it is expected those who are on the path of devotional service, they have almost nil material activities, even though apparently it looks. So Haridas Babaji doesn't feel this is a fit to answer. Then he goes ahead with 10 symptoms or 10 characteristics of the Vaishnavas. That's what he's talking about. 10 features of a religious life. One is the patience. That means Charu Prabhuji mentions that one needs patience. When you start with a devotional service, nothing comes straight away, right? It takes time. Utsaha, Nicha, Dhairya, Tat, Karma, Pravartana. And that is what he talks about. So, Utsaha, Nicha, Dhairya. Dhairya is required. Patience is required. You don't get a devotional service, you start practicing. Again, it depends on your your devotion. Then self-control, cleanliness, internal and external. Then sense control, one needs to control his senses. Knowledge, this is not a speculative knowledge, knowledge about scripture, particularly as a Vaishnava, Charu Prabhuji mentioned, this knowledge is not speculative, it's about Vaishnava and wisdom that he gets by understanding, reading the scripture or listening kathas and all that. So these are, all those first six are for the person, one who is, who is a performer or who is a self for that. They influence him. And then there are four more. One is forgiveness, honesty, truthfulness, freedom from anger. These are basically remaining four are for the benefit of others. This is what we start. So then it start discussing about those four type of the four are there. So out of that, it starts with neophyte devotees. Who is the neophyte devotee? So he's one who is basically prakat bhakta. That means he has still material. He looks in material everywhere, but he worships the deities in the temple. He believes me and my deities, and that's what he doesn't see deities or Krishna to whom he worships cannot be in isolation. It has to be seen with devotees. Always we saw. There's a book Bhagavad, there's Krishna is a Bhagavad and Bhakta is a pure devotee or a devotee is also Bhagavad. So he doesn't see that relation. He wants a direct relation because he is still materially, he doesn't have that understanding. That's what is the meaning of that. And the second, even though it is, Kanishta Adhikari, it is mentioned here, Charu Prabhuji mentions that. Okay, so Prabhuji, you are sharing. Wait, I will just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just give me one.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
No problem.
No, go ahead.
Although he stands although he stands at the entrance of the house of devotional service, his service is not pure devotional. His faith is material, unsteady faith. And another point is to convert non-devotee into devotee is not his power, because he lacks the proper understanding, because Krishna cannot be seen in isolation with the devotees. So that is the neophyte devotees. Today, Prabhuji will be talking about more details on the neophyte devotees. I think remaining questions, from 3rd to 34, we'll see more into that. Then Madhyama Adhikari. So he is one, he is one loves Krishna, and sees devotees in relation with Krishna. And how we see that Madhyama, as the word shows, Madhyama or intermediate, he sees that four person, one who is above him, senior devotees or something, he surrenders to him. One who is at his level, Madhyama, he makes friendship. We'll see again more details on that. And those who are, other devotees, those who are ignorant is okay. He has compassion for them. But those who are, envious of Lord Krishna, he neglects them. So we saw this four, and we'll be looking into that. He is a favorable, he has favorable love for Lord Krishna. He understands his supremacy. He is friendly to the devotees who are surrendered to Supreme Personality Godhead. And now the other two, there are more points to that. That means those are innocent people. So how to classify whom he gives a mercy? His mercy is not a blanket. His mercy is dependent on that the person's intention or mood. So mercy to innocent people in general who do not understand the spiritual truth. It's easy to make him understand, who are bewildered. because Charu Prabhuji mentioned that bewildered because he sees the so many karma kanda, gyan kanda, ashtanga yoga, all those philosophies, and hears from different, and he gets bewildered to that. That's okay. He doesn't have a right, guru or a right person to answer, but he could be cultivated. The again third point is who are foolish, who have many misconceptions. Okay, again, because he doesn't know which is the right path to do. Is it devotional service, Gyani, or Ashtanga yogis? He build who have faith in the karma kanda of the Vedas and various non-devotional philosophies, and that we understand because he is in material platform. Deity worship, but with a material desire. So these are some of the characteristics mentioned. We'll be discussing. I think Charu Prabhuji will be explaining more in detail. Now, whom he doesn't give, that is the Madhyama Adhikari, that ignores and avoids hateful person, envious person, do not believe in the existence of the Supreme Personality Godhead, believes that the living entity himself has created God. Or someplace it's a mention also that because the God comes up because of his karmic reactions or karma, that is what he believes. Do not believe God has a form. Again, that is the Mayavadis. Do not believe that individual soul is eternally subordinate to the God. Again, related with the previous question, to be merciless. These are the people Uttamadhikari discriminate. It is said that neophyte doesn't connect with the devotees of the Lord. And okay, so next to that is a Uttamadhikari or advanced devotee. Let's finish this. He is the most advanced devotee, see within everything the soul of all souls, that is the Lord Krishna, Supreme Godhead, Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understand that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord. And Charu Prabhuji mentioned very nicely, how the Lord, as a Kshurodakshay Vishnu, he is sitting in he is as a Paramatma. At the same time, he is all pervading also everywhere. So again, the last sentence he repeats very nicely: everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord. So again, it's Achinda Beda Bed. Lord, the entire universe is within the Lord. And the Lord is with everyone. So this is and what how it impacts his dealing with other people. He does not think that some persons are Vaishnava and others are not. So this Uttamadhikari, he looks at Lord Krishna, the Paramatma, in every devotee. He sees the outside body because of his karma. And since he sees Krishna, Pandita Samadarshani, he doesn't discriminate, and so he doesn't want to preach or he doesn't want to do anything because he doesn't distinguish himself separate from those other available. It's not only human, it's non-humans also. So treats them equally. So it's a mention. The neophyte devotee doesn't associate with devotees. Neophyte and Uttamadhikari also seeing, they are part and parcel of the Lord and connection with the Lord as a Paramatma. So they also don't. Who preaches? Who is the more important? Preaching or teaching us is a Madhyamadhikari. Charu Prabhuji mentioned also.
Excuse me. I'm sorry I have to interrupt. But Prabhuji, it's taking too long. If you will permit me. Can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's 25 minutes almost. I've been telling you repeatedly many times, all of you, recap. You are not giving a lecture again, because you are not going to be able to do it. You have only 10, 15 minutes. If you are going to lecture all over again, you are not really successful. Recap means highlights that you're recapping. You're not giving the class all over again. That is what Prabhuji was trying to do in explaining. He far exceeded his time allotment, but I can understand. It's his first try. It's a first try, and we all go through this kind of experience in the first try. So don't feel too bad. But again, to rest of you, you are going to attempt this thing. Please and then I used to tell even Sharat Prabhuji when he was doing the beginning, and then he was training all of you, you have 10, 15 minutes. Because if you are going to give a lecture, then I cannot give, my time is totally cut off, Recap means only highlights. You are not going to cover every fine points that I give in my lecture, because you are not going to be able to do it. Sharat Prabhuji could do it because he's expert. Don't try to imitate him. In Vaishnava culture, we learn, right? Anusharana, follow in the footsteps, not anukarana. The way he summarizes in 10 minutes, that's the art he has learned, and still very clearly you will explain everything. But the rest of you, you are still learning. 2 points, remember, if you really understood the lecture, then you should know what are the highlights, and not only highlights you cover. Because if you are going to do this thing, whole lecture, then the main points are totally missed. It gets diluted away in all those kinds of things that is not needed in recap. Okay, Sharad Prabhuji, please let the new people you are training, these 2 points are becoming very, very clear. You only no more than at the most 15 minutes. And only I want you to cover highlights. If you cannot detect the highlights, that means you have not understood the lecture. All right, Haribol, and it will help you if you use my slides. That will help you. Hare Krishna. So let me begin. So already 25 minutes has gone now. In recapping, and I've got a lot to cover. That's the Radha Vinod Prabhuji. Please kindly forgive me for this.
No, it makes Prabhuji sense because I lost the track of the time, just started with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
True.
Okay, sorry. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Haribol?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the slide I always show you. So what we are going to be covering this weekend, today we will do this lesson 13. The lesson 13 are basically questions being asked by this devotee who had taken sannyas prematurely, because he was looking, because when he saw others who had taken sannyas, the people, society is to give great respect, honor. So that is what he was looking for, and for that reason he took sannyas. So that was the wrong reason actually, and that's what we are going to learn here. So the first two questions of chapter 8 that we discussed in lesson 12, that Prabhuji was trying to recap. Today we will do, pardon me my voice, it's because of the low thyroid. The thyroid affects my voice. So lesson 13, first two questions and answers that I covered in lesson 12. And now today we will go cover the rest of the questions, beginning with number 3 all the way to 34 questions. Okay. So that is lesson 13. Lesson 14 that we will do tomorrow morning, that is chapter 9. And then chapter 10, the following day, that is, we'll do lesson 15. So here is the overall the slide showing the entire chapter 13. I'm sorry, lesson 13. So since already we covered question one, first two questions. So we'll start with question 3 onwards, okay? This slide shows only from 4 to, this is an error. It should be 4 to 13. So we will take question number 3. So question 3, Nityananda Prabhu, he is asking, and his question being answered by Haridas Babaji. Okay. And basically he's asking question 3. Let me. So question 3 is basically asking all these details about that. And Babaji, Haridas Babaji is explaining. So truthfully, basically what question 3 is asking is a simple question. But Haridas Babaji is explaining in great detail. The question 3 is asking, now that he heard all the detailed explanation of the different levels of devotees in their progression towards and their ultimate goal of developing Krishna Prema. So there are 3 levels of devotees: neophyte devotees, intermediate devotee, and the advanced. Neophyte Kanishtadhikari, intermediate Madhyamadhikari, the topmost is Uttamadhikari. So now he wanted to know basically where I stand. And that is what he says. Truthfully, am I a neophyte or an intermediate devotee? And he knew himself very clearly. And that was his magnanimity, that he is not an Uttamadhikari. Okay. So the question is this: truthfully, am I a neophyte or an intermediate? Certainly, I'm not an advanced Vaishnava. So upon being asked, Babaji didn't ask actually, um, just kindly tell us a little bit about your background so that I can answer your question better. So since Babaji asked, Nityananda is honestly revealing himself completely, as honest as possible. And that was a good character of Vaishnava character in him. In fact, that differentiates from a totally Kanishtadhikari to Madhyamadhikari, intermediate. Kanishtadhikari does not respect. He worships the God. Of course, Krishna he worships. Okay. And his worship is also not really pure. But he does not recognize, does not honor, does not give respect to the devotees of the Lord. That is his drawback. When he starts respecting the devotees in addition to the Lord himself, then he enters into intermediate level. And that is what we see the character of an intermediate level in Nityananda. So Babaji purposefully asked him that question. Please tell us a little bit about you, before I can judge whether you are neophyte or an intermediate. So he's telling, and he admitted, frankly, that I took sannyas. Now later I realized it was premature, because what I was looking for, that public recognition, great fame, people were paying obeisances. That was the reason he took that, So I desired to be honored like many Vaishnavas who had renounced that he so personally. And everyone in the village respected them. So Nityananda also became inspired by the temporary feelings. And remember, at that time, his wife passed away. So obviously, when a very dear one leaves, you get a certain kind of renunciation. So temporarily he got over, but his primary goal was to get great recognition, fame, and everything. So passing of his wife did contribute, of course, his temporary renunciation, temporary feeling of renunciation by his wife's untimely death. So he accepted the garments of Vaishnava dress, saffron clothes, things like that. Okay. However, he came over the wickedness, that wickedness he had, that he took sannyas for the gaining the recognition and great fame and all these things. That was his wickedness. So he recognized that. So he came over, he bypassed that wickedness by frankly admitting himself. Uh, and then he also received counsel, guidance from other senior Vaishnavas. Okay. So now no longer his mind wants to leave the right path. He came to that conclusion. He daily chants 100,000 holy names and observes Ekadasi and waters Tulasi every day. That's every Vaishnava does it. That's his daily routine. And that's what he was doing. So he was clearly way above the neophyte stage, and he was entering being an intermediate devotee. That was coming out very clearly. And that was the reason why Babaji asked him to explain himself. And not only that, he continues, he participates in Kirtana. Kirtana means, see, there are two ways you chant Hare Krishna. One, japa, silently, only you can hear, and you need to hear what you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But then Sankirtan Yajna, you do it loudly, dancing, music, kartala, mridanga, that is with a group, that is called Sankirtan Yajna. So he participated in many such Sankirtan Yajnas. And he daily reads Chaitanya Mangala, that is a scripture. And he does not desire opulent food, clothing, and so on like that. Clearly, that is the typical character of being renunciant, sannyasi. He has not yet qualified for that, but he is doing that. So I don't like to hear gossip. That's again Vaishnava character, an advanced Vaishnava character. Also become ecstatic upon witnessing the singing and dancing of the Vaishnavas. He came into that great, when he sees that, the other Vaishnava dancing with great ecstatic mood, you don't imitate. Natural enthusiasm should come from within. And that is what he was showing. However, to a certain extent, he still desires fame. That lingering pratishta, kach, kamini and pratishta. Kach means material wealth. Kamini, enjoying women. And those are the gross levels. The subtle level that we covered actually in one of the other courses also actually. Mana Siksha also we covered that. The third, which is Pratishta, looking for fame, recognition. All these people say, wah, wah, kya, kya. So that was the thing that is lingering thing still there within him, and he readily admits that. So after hearing that, Babaji still does not give his own opinion. He consults Vaishnavadas Babaji. We already heard so much about him, the great scholar and everything. So Babaji concurred with him, and Vaishnavadas Babaji assessed that he is clearly way past his Kanishtadhikari stage, and now he is on an intermediate level. Certainly, he is not an advanced devotee, of course. So Babaji, Haridas Babaji concurred and agreed with that kind of assessment from Vaishnava Acharya. So now he himself is telling, Babaji is telling him and cautioned him, be vigilant that your lingering thirst for fame is still there, but try to curb it, control it, because that will be detrimental in your progression on your devotional service. And be humble. And I see the signs of humility in you. But humility means what? Sixthastam verse. Amani mani manadena. You don't expect any kind of respect from others, but you do give respect to others. So that point, Sixthastam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells, come to that right, that mind, So that will, because otherwise your devotional progression of devotional service will be suffering. Okay. And also lust, anger, and other the vices that you must control, all this thing will follow that. Of course, Nityananda Prabhu at that point, tears rolling from his eyes, and felt very fallen, true signs of a very humble devotee. But an advanced devotee, humble devotee, will never say I'm advanced. Okay, he'll always think I'm fallen. That is the telltale signs of a more advanced devotee. Okay, so Babaji nevertheless embraced him, and Nityananda accepted Haridas Babaji as a spiritual master. Okay. So that is the highlight, the basic points. Radha Vinod Prabhu, this is the way you summarize particular point. Don't go into details when you go into. Now I'm giving a lecture, so I need to explain, obviously, But when you're recapping, first the recap. People, the listeners will know what you're trying to say, the main points. Then because you are giving a lecture, you explain certain final points. But then after you summarize, again you come back to the highlights. Here, what are the highlights? Nityananda Prabhu wanted to know what he wanted to know. And Babaji says, what level you were. Just explain yourself to assess. So very humbly and very honestly he declares himself. And that were the signs. So these are the highlights of this particular slide. So that you can do it in 2 minutes. Now I'm giving lecture, that's why I explained in greater detail. But I did not take my eyes away from the highlights. So all of you listening me know exactly what is the highlight of this particular slide. Okay, now we'll go further questions. So after having covered the question number 3 and answered, now the question number 4. Question number 4 is, what are the primary and secondary features of a neophyte devotee? That is the question of Nityananda. Okay. So again, this is an art of making good PowerPoints. This is an organization. So instead of giving verbally, I'm showing you schematically. So immediately looking at it, it will get imprinted on your mind. So what are primary and secondary features? Primary features, the 2 main points. You should have a faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, that He is eternal, Satchit Ananda. That should be there. That's a primary feature. And of course, deity worship. That is the characteristic of a neophyte. What are the secondary features? The elements of Navada Bhakti: hearing, chanting, remembering. Okay, so that is the highlights. Don't waste time going too many details. Direct answer to the question being asked. So now the rest of the questions and answers. And I'm going to go rather quickly, and I will focus more on some significant questions. Question number 5. While understanding why those 2 are the primary features, what are the primary features? Remember, faith that the Lord is Satchidananda, is eternal. Eternity is there. Sat means it is eternity. And neophyte is focusing on deity seva. Okay. So he says that these 2 features, I understood that what you just said. But then why the other features are secondary? Chanting, hearing, chanting, remembering. They are the first 3 steps of Navada Bhakti. There is at least, at minimum, that you should do that at the neophyte level. So these are the secondary features. Okay. So why these features are secondary? The answer is this: a person who does not understand the true nature of pure devotional service, do not think that these are the primary activities. Such a conditioned soul consider these as secondary. Navada Bhakti is very, very important. But the neophyte devotee does not recognize that because he is focused on the deity seva. Okay? And even deity seva, the Satchitananda nature of Krishna is still not entering in his mind. So upon liberation only, he considered devotional service, begin with hearing, chanting, and so on, like the other features of Navada Bhakti. See, then when he understands the Navada Bhakti features, then he will come to the intermediate stage. The primary devotees, I'm sorry, Kanishta Adhikari, has not understood that feature. So the next question, number 6, then why is he still considered a devotee? Very logical question. Because he's missing the important features of Navada Bhakti. Can you still call him as a devotee? The answer is that faith is the root of devotional service. And that we learn very clearly, right? Madhurya Kadambini, Adau Shraddha, Saupratham, very beginning, you must have that little bit of faith in devotional service and Krishna, and the Krishna will protect like that. So faith should be there. Undoubtedly, a neophyte is there. So one good feature of neophyte, we already heard the negative feature, right? But one good feature that at least he's got a visa. He's got a passport. Now he got a visa, so he can travel, right? All he has to do now, book his flight and board the airplane, right? So at least he's at the door of devotional service at the very minimum, a neophyte devotee. So he's definitely a devotee, and he has already begun chanting Hare Krishna, and that is the definition Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. One who chants Hare Krishna, he should recognize that he is a devotee. But Kanishta Adhikari, you don't openly offer obeisances, but mentally offer obeisances. So faith means trust that form of the Lord, that it is a reality. That makes him eligible for devotional service. Then he has to make progress. Question number 7, when will such a person attain true devotion to the Lord? So the answer, when he becomes free from jnana and karma. Again the definition, pure bhakti. Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam. Just like a curtain. Okay, you draw the curtain, uncover the curtain to see what is behind the curtain, right? The curtain is this, that is preventing you to see the wonderful features of devotional service. And that is the speculative knowledge. Knowledge is important, but not the speculative knowledge means that which is not based on Shastra, scriptures. And scriptures are directly coming from the Supreme Lord. So that authenticates what you learn from Shastra. So that Shastra, you must have a faith in the Supreme Lord. So faith is based, the scriptures that you have is based on the faith. That's why you believe whatever Shastra says is absolutely right. Because there are ambiguities there. That's not the subject of today. So I won't get into that. I won't dwell into that. So that is speculative knowledge. That which is not based on Shastra, authentic Shastra, then you don't want to get involved in that needs to be uncovered. And then fruitive activities, personal selfish interest, that karma you do with selfish interest, that you don't want. When these two are removed, when you uncurtain it, then you begin to see a beautiful form of devotional service. So then only you'll enter that. So when one understands the difference between guest and a devotee, neophyte devotee is serving the Lord, okay? But he does not distinguish the devotees coming to the temple and ordinary people, ordinary guests coming to the temple, okay? So he does not recognize the difference. He treats them equally. So he does not respect the devotees of the Lord. But then when he desires sadhu sangha, again Madhurya Kadambini, Adav Shraddha, then comes sadhu sangha, right? And sadhu introduces him to bhajana kriya. So that's why important sadhu. And sadhu sangha is the constant bloodline, provides all the nutrients. Okay, all the way to all Navada Bhakti completely. Sadhu sangha must be required. Very, very important. Cannot overemphasize. Then he becomes an individual devotee. When he recognizes sadhus. Question number 8. When does he attain sambandha jnana? Advance. Sambandha jnana means that you are pure spirit soul and you have a relationship, eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, serving the Lord as he desires, as Krishna desires. And we are going to begin to understand here this advanced topic of Sambandha Jnana very soon from Sharad Prabhuji. Series of classes, series of lessons. The whole second, remember there are 4 parts of Jaiva Dharma, right? First part that I'm discussing now, the lesson to lesson 17. And then lesson 18 onwards, Sharad Prabhuji is going to take over the second part, most important part, the Sambandha Jnana, Abhideya, Prayojana, all that. So then question about when does he begin to understand Sambandha Jnana to engage in pure devotional service? The answer is when he no longer is contaminated by Mayavadi philosophy. He must definitely understand that there is a difference. He is just a tiny atomic part of individual soul, spirit soul. Well, Krishna is Vibhu. That he must understand. But Mayavadi philosophy says there is no difference. He, the Lord. So they don't differentiate. We are also Brahman. The Lord is also Brahman, but the Lord is Para Brahman, supreme. So as long as you are under the influence of Mayavadi philosophy, then you will never get to understand that Sambandha Jnana. Question number 9. How many does that take? How long it will take to understand? And Sharad Prabhuji is going to tell us. Just the lesson itself is going to take several lessons to explain that. You know? So the past performance of pious deeds makes him attain quickly. Because remember, how do you get sadhu sangha? Only by the past pious deeds. Agyata sikriti. Kriti, something you have done. Sukriti, something good deeds. And agyata sikriti, you don't even know that you did good things. That's how the sadhu comes in your life. So, yeah, it takes long time. But with sadhu sangha, association of the devotees, serving them, ask pertinent questions. Asking question is of paramount importance, but submissively, not challenging. That way, that is the right way to have association. And you hear from him the transcendental knowledge, not speculative knowledge. So then the question number 10, what is the first result that these past pious deeds bring? How can you tell? So that is sadhu sangha. The answer is sadhu sangha. Keep hearing, keep associating with advanced devotees, and you will keep on getting the realization that something you must have done good. That's why I'm so fortunate receiving the association of advanced devotees. Okay. So what result is gradually attained by sadhu sangha? In sadhu sangha, he constantly hears about the Lord, because advanced devotees, they talk nothing but Krishna and his wonderful pastimes. And then gradually attains that faith, original little faith is there, becomes more stabilized. No more doubts, no misgivings. Continuous sadhu sangha. More and more transcendental knowledge. Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam. Shruvatam Swakatha Krishna. constantly hearing the first very important part of Navada Bhakti. Then Nashta Prayeshwa Bhadreshu, all the past misdeeds are being washed off. Then the Lord takes away the lower modes, which are impediments, which are preventing you, that are removed, and Lord establishes mode of goodness. Mode of goodness, evam prasanna manaso, Bhagavad Bhakti Yog Prayojita, means you then engage in pure devotional service, and then that leads to Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam. These are the way you make progression. Continuous hearing from advanced schools. How does one attain sadhu sangha? Of course, that answer is already there. Pious deeds. And the question number 13, isn't it a neophyte in sadhu sangha plus deity worship equivalent to serving the devotee there? Of course, see the redundant question he's asking. He says, isn't a neophyte in sadhu sangha who is already in sadhu sangha, and he still asks question about sadhu sangha? So Babaji is saying, by sadhu sangha one gradually gains faith in the deity form of the Lord, but now that deity is not made of material elements. Lord himself is there. Spiritual form is that form, because we still have a material body to accept our service. That's the Lord so kindly, so mercifully has accepted the spiritual form in the material elements. The deity is made of material elements. So sadhu sangha is, that's how it is. So now continuing, question. So I already read this thing. These are the focused more. Up to 13 is covered. Now, question number 14. Now we'll pay a little bit more, we'll spend more time, because this is important question. The stages through which a neophyte progresses, very important point. He understood how, but various specific stages, how does he produce? How does he make progress? Stages through which a neophyte progress as he makes spiritual advancement. So 1 through 12. While he has faith in the deity, his material desires and non-devotional talk persist. Okay, that's the stage neophyte devotee is there now. But now he's making progress. Devotees comes to visit. So when he is serving the Lord, okay, lot of guests comes. Along with the guest, some devotees of the Lord also come there. And he sees them, observes them. Comes to visit the temple where the neophyte continues his deity worship. Now, what catches his attention, and that distinguish between an ordinary guest of the temple and a true devotee of the Lord. So he honors the devotee as he would any other visitors. Okay, he does not differentiate. Just he treats the devotees of the Lord also in the same way he treats ordinary guests. But he notices them. These two people are coming. Fourth point, fourth stage, he notices now what catches his attention, because the devotees don't do it as an ordinary guest go. Ordinary guest will put some gift and everything, pay obeisances. That's it. But the devotee, he connects himself with the deity with great bhava. He pays his obeisances, dances, and so on like that. Okay, that is noticeable by this Kanishta Adhikari who is doing his deity seva. Okay, he notices the activities of these more advanced devotees, and that makes him see the distinction between guest and a devotee. Point number 5, he hears them discussing the scriptures and the Vaishnava philosophy. That ordinary guest obviously would not do that, right? That is making him more and more noticeable, this devotee. Stage number 6, see gradually how he's being enlightened. The more he hears and observes this devotee closely, the more he develops respect and honor and veneration for these advanced devotees. Clearly, he's making a critical stage, is passing from a Kanishtha to intermediate devotee. Kanishtha does not recognize devotees. Now he is beginning to recognize devotee. Because of the devotees, their wonderful devotional activities, their whole soul, their whole being is involved in serving the Lord. Stage number 7, gradually his heart becoming purified. When he does that, he hears them. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Srunatam Swakatha. Heart is being purified. Krishna helps from within. All the lower modes, selfish interest, are slowly getting dissipated and coming to the mode of goodness. Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam, all this wonderful progressive stage discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verses 17 through 21. Gradually, the heart becoming purified, his interest in jnana and karma dissipates, and so does his material desires. Previously, very intense desire there, slowly getting Madhurya Kadambini. Those stages, right? Stage number 8, his continued hearing the Lord's transcendental attributes and pastimes. The neophyte now becomes learned in the scriptural knowledge. And lo and behold, yes, and then he himself will give discourses on scriptures, as Radha Vinod Prabhu just did it today. Then more and more he studies, thereby gaining realization of the Lord, Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam, and his holy name along with his devotional service. He begins to relish chanting of the holy name. First he relishes hearing of that, then he himself does that. That begins with hearing and chanting, but constant sadhu sangha glorifies are all beyond 3 modes. He gradually understands the truth about Sambandha Jnana. Now he knows that he is spiritual soul. The Lord is the supreme soul, super soul. Okay, and he is meant to serve Krishna. That is the essential nature of a Sambandha Jnana. What is your relationship in that context with the Supreme Lord? When that understanding becomes perfect, the neophyte becomes an intermediate devotee. 11th, now the neophyte spontaneously seeking his engagement. So now he is looking forward to see and associate with the advanced devotees. When he comes to that stage, he's clearly on an intermediate stage. That's what Nityananda Prabhu, when he was describing himself, that was noticeable by Vaishnavadas Babaji and Haridas Babaji. And that's how they make a correct assessment that he is clearly on an intermediate state. The 12th stage then only understands that the devotee who have accepted spiritual master are different from ordinary guest. Now, he sees very clear, distinct difference between ordinary guest of the temple and devotee of the Lord. So now we notice why spend more time on this thing, because these are very important elements for us to understand. Now we'll go 15, 16, 17, 18. Again, I will hurriedly go because of the time. My 15 minutes are already cut off. Why is that many devotees do not become an advanced devotee in this way? The way you explain. Why only small percentage actually become an advanced devotee? What's the point? What happens? So Babaji is saying, when Asat Sangha. See, while you're doing all this thing, you need to really curb yourself from Asat Sangha. What is Asat Sangha? Undesirable association. Sadhu Sangha is a desirable one. Asat Sangha, those who are not like-minded, worldly minded people. Stri Sangi, those are womanizers and all these things. That you need to avoid that. When you chant Hare Krishna, offenseless chanting, if you commit offenses, then regulatory principle must be followed. Then the potency of your chanting will be realized. Otherwise, it will take many, many years. So that Asat Sangha is very strong at that point. Most of the people who are not able to see the progress he's making, he's associating with sadhus, the same time is continuing with Asat Sangha also. That is not desirable association of people. He quickly loses the right to be a neophyte devotee. Then his interest in jnana and karma becomes prominent. See, the bad things very quickly will take over the charge. It's very difficult to wash off your bad things in us. You give a little chance, Maya Devi is very strong. Immediately she'll grab us. Sometimes the neophyte neither advances nor falls away. He's in a limbo situation, remains that sometimes many, many years. And he is simply wondering, I've been chanting for last 10 years, and why I'm not making progress? Because the other negative elements, he has not taken leave of that. Question number 16. When does that actually happen? When he actually makes progress? When Sat and Asat Sangha is of equal strength, this is what happens, right? But now you have to more become Sat Sangha. Sat Sangha is Sadhu Sangha. You need to take over more, take over that, controlling over the Asat Sangha. Then Asat Sangha you will lose. You automatically lose interest in worldly minded people, and worldly minded people themselves will desert you. Because these guys don't come into the parties. That's what happened to me. Now I have a very small social circle. They themselves isolated me because I'm not taking part in their drinks, parties, dancing, and all these things. When does he definitely make advancement? When Sadhu Sangha is great and Asat Sangha is very, very small. Question number 18. What are the sins and virtues of the neophyte devotee? In the beginning, neophyte may be much like the Gyanis and Karmis. He still is in speculative knowledge. Some selfish desire to enjoy sense gratification is still there. And that is still there. So that is the reason we all have that still. That's the most difficult. However, as he advances in devotional service, the potency of the devotional service itself will propel you forward and continued sadhu sangha. And his sins and defects become minimized. He then desires to please the Supreme Lord as Krishna desires. Okay, let's take a break. I'm running behind time, but please, my time was cut off, 15 minutes I lost. Okay, so can we take just 2 minutes break, please?
प्रभु जी ब्रेक को छोड़ी था ना चालते
3 minutes.
प्रभु जी
Whether nahi chale, let this little bit settle in your mind. 3 minutes. Okay? Breaks are important actually. It's needed. It's not luxury. The mind can absorb only so much. You need to give rest and then come back refreshed. So this will cut off a little bit discussion time, okay? Please forgive me for that. Okay, it's about 30 seconds now. All right. So now, question number 19. The primary qualities and the activities of the intermediate devotee. The question is about that. What are the primary qualities and what are the activities of such a devotee? The intermediate devotee now we are talking about, okay? So without look at the yellow box. Without committing offenses, the intermediate devotee performs various kinds of devotional service in sadhu sangha, constant association with the advanced souls that begin with simply hearing and chanting. That continues. Okay. So what are his qualities and what are his activities? So I prefer to show schematically rather than just descriptively, so that you can see it right away. So there are 4 notable qualities. Unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. Okay. Unalloyed means what? You're not asking Krishna, please give me a lot of money. Please make sure I can please my girlfriend. Like that things, So unselfishly serve the Lord. That is the qualities of an intermediate devotee. He wants, remember the 4 things. These are the 4 elements of intermediate devotee. He himself, his devotion to Krishna is unselfish. And he appreciates other devotees of the Lord who are like that. So he appreciate and admire such a devotee. That is the second point. And he makes friendship with such a devotee. Third point, he himself is merciful those who are lower than him. And he tries to help them to make progression. So mercy to the innocents, those innocents who are open-minded. They are not envious, of course. They are open-minded and they still have some misgivings, doubts to clear. So the intermediate devotee helps such innocent people. And he definitely knows those who are envious, who constantly blaspheme the other devotees. When you blaspheme other devotees, then you are indirectly blaspheming the Lord also. So he avoids, neglects the associating with those people. Of course, when he has to make a job, do job, he does only that can, but the intimate relationship is not there with such worldly minded people. So these are the first four major elements of an intermediate devotee. Okay, what are these activities? What does he do then? By understanding the soul's eternal relationship with the Lord, Sambandha Jnana, Abhidaya, Bhakti process is the means and the goal to attain that. Goal is Prayojana, Krishna Prema. Okay, now we'll go through question 21 to 24. Question 20, what are the secondary qualities of an intermediate devotee? And the answer is, the way in which an intermediate devotee lives his life is secondary quality, because he has to provide his example to others and also emulate the example of his more advanced devotees that he's associating with that. And that who are below, he needs to show it by his own example. So those are his secondary qualities. He obeys the will of Krishna and serves him favorably. When he things which are not in his control, an intermediate devotee always think, let Krishna decide that. I want to see somebody, meet somebody, but I can't, because so many different factors are there which is beyond his control. Then he tells that person, I'm sorry, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to see you. Let Krishna decide what is the will of Krishna that will happen. And I'm hoping that Krishna will allow me, if it is in my favor, which is good for me, in my welfare, then Krishna will definitely provide. But if it is not in my welfare, then Krishna will not allow that. He is the sanctioning authority. So that is his secondary activity. Is he not able to sin or commit offenses? Of course, yes. In the beginning, he may be prone to sin or offend. That happens. But more and more you make advancement, less and less chances of committing sins. But gradually recovers by appropriate renunciation. Yukta Vairagya. Just because something is material, you don't discard. If it potentially can be utilized in Krishna's service, then use it, even though it is material. That separates us from those jnanis. Okay, so that is called Yukta Vairagya. Question number 22. Are jnana, karma, and the desire for things outside the realm of do not prevent even slight in his life? So the answer is, in the beginning, there may be the dim reflection of these things. So there's a reflection, okay? And then there is a shadow, chaya and pratibimba. Chaya means shadow. Pratibimba, that which reflects, okay? But at the end, they are completely uprooted. As you make more and more, Krishna himself will protect you. Do the intermediate devotee wish to continue living in the material world? So why? I mean, he does not take sannyas right away. He does not go to the forest, not for its sake or even liberation, but only so that they may attain the perfect stage of pure devotion. They want to go higher and higher level. So he does not give up this world. Yes, because he associated, but he is now very vigilant to whom he should associate and to whom he should not associate. What he ought to do, what he ought not to do, because the Vedic injunction, Shastric injunction tells him how he should behave. He should not minimize his vikarmas. More and more, if he does akarma means whatever you work for Krishna, then that will protect him. And that is my incentive why I'm continuing giving classes and studying myself. That is the direct order from my Guru Maharaj. Charuchandra, at the time of initiation, he gave me some 26 years ago. Charuchandra, he of course gave me chant Hare Krishna, follow 4 regular, but then he gives special order which is tailor-made to us, each disciple. And to me, my order was, Charuchandra, you learn Shastra, Prabhupada books, bona fide books, and then whatever you learn, whatever you realize, share with others, teach others. And that's what I've been doing for the past 26 years. And that is helping me. So, question number 24, why do they not wish for death? What happiness can they find in this dull and inert material body? So, they are very important question. By Lord Krishna's mercy, will they act at once, attain their original spiritual form? The spiritual form, Siddha Pranali, The answer is they want whatever Krishna wants. If he wishes that something happen, it will happen. If I'm going to die, it's going to happen anyway. Okay. So I have an allotted lifespan. But if Krishna desires, if he wants something done by me, then he potentially can extend one's lifetime. And corollary, he can even decrease one's lifetime. A bad personality. So he leaves it up to Krishna. But whatever the time he has, as much as possible, will try his best to utilize that time. It's not service. If he wishes that something happens, it's going to happen. They do not wish for anything independently. Okay, the final questions now. What are the secondary qualities of an advanced devotee? Now, so far we learned Kanishta we learned intermediate devotee, now little bit of Uttamadhikari, okay? These are the actions he performs with his body, impelled by the prema, free from material modes, nirguna. Therefore, these are not truly secondary qualities actually, Question number 26. A neophyte does not renounce grastha life, and an intermediate one may live either as a grastha or a sannyasi. Is it possible for an advanced devotee to remain as a grastha? The answer is, the conditions are present in all stages of devotional service. Neither by remaining as a grastha or being a sannyasi, one becomes situated as an intermediate uttama devotee. So it's not really that important to become a sannyasi. The Vrajavasis are all grasthas. Nanda Baba, many, they were all grasthas. All the gopis, they were married. So you don't have to become a sannyasi really. In fact, preaching from grastha platform is much more challenging because you can relate when you preach others. You understand their difficulties in the grastha life because you yourself is a grastha. If an advanced devotee is a grastha and an intermediate devotee is a sannyasi, how should he act? The answer is very simple. You should offer assistance or obeisances to a more advanced one. Even though advanced one is a grastha and you may be sannyasi, but that fellow is more advanced, then accordingly. An advanced devotee is not concerned in this regard as he sees Krishna in the heart of. So the Uttamadhikari, of course, he does not see any distinction. What many Vaishnavas gather together to hold festivals and honor Krishna Prasadam. Now, these are very practical, some of the questions. I'm not going to spend too much time. You can read it over. There's nothing to explain. They're self-explanatory. 31. If the descendant of a great Vaishnava is himself only an ordinary man, he shouldn't be honored or counted among the Vaishnavas if he's an ordinary man. Still, Trinadapi Sunichena, you are a devotee, you respect everyone, okay, and give appropriate honor to all the people who are not even devotees. What kind of humility is inappropriate? No one should have the false pride, nor should he aspire to be honored. So Sixastakam verse. Amani manadena. You don't expect respect, recognition, honor from others, but you give the same to all others. Thus, the goddess of devotion, Bhakti Devi, requires humble humility and mercy from the devotees. Those two virtues, humility and mercy. Now, these particular paragraph which you see, question number 33 and its answer, that really touched my heart, and that's why I made an open apology. The element that I learned, of course, I knew these four elements: forgiveness. I'm sorry, the eternal spiritual reality, humility, mercy. These three I knew very well. But being able to forgiveness is divine. That I learned it the hard way just this past weekend. Forgiveness is part of your devotional service. And Vaishnava is very, very merciful. He forgives even the greatest offense somebody has done against him, but he would rather not do himself, That I learned hard way. And then question one repeats that how Vaishnava religion is distinct from other religions. Vaishnava religion, as I explained many, many times before, very at great detail. So I'm not going to repeat too much. But basically, there's only one religion. Develop love for God and serve Him, and chant the holy name of the Lord. It's there in Islam, it's there in Christianity, everywhere, So that is what Babaji said, that all religions are. But the nice important point, you don't really denigrate somebody else's faith. You help as much as you can, but don't denigrate. Okay, so that concludes. Hare Krishna. So I took 10 minutes more, okay? Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is a wonderful session, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you
trying
very
to. This
So
one won't
accurate,
allow
Prabhu.
me.
I don't know, even if we get 1% of your devotion, that consistency, the commitment, my life will change, Prabhu. That's all I can say. Yes, Prabhu. So I have a question, Prabhu.
We all, that's a very good point you're making. Very good point. We all have to. Yeah.
See, Prabhu, offenseless chanting, I have a question, Prabhu. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Offenseless chanting is the thing which is coming so many times, Prabhu. I always get scared of this offenseless chanting. Okay. Like 16 malas we are doing, each mala,
Mhm.
okay, mantra, mahamantra. And when we are doing these 16 malas, the thing is, offenseless my understanding is like, you should not think so other things should not come. Okay. Or you should hear the mantra. That is what I consider as offenseless. But it is becoming very difficult now, Prabhu. It is very difficult for me. I am literally struggling. I am becoming helpless. How can I do that?
No, you are not alone. We are all, you all have that same challenges.
So how can I do this offenseless chanting?
So, continue following the advanced devotees, and sometimes it helps. When I chant in the temple, remember the temple devotees, they chant in the morning, where more advanced devotees are also there, So do it, follow. Of course, avoid transgressing regulatory principles. And it's not the number, it's not the quantity, but the quality of each of you around. That is, chanting is important. So these are the guidelines, but it is challenging to all of us, including myself. Sometimes my mind is changing, very flickering. So sometimes we are disturbed, and then affects the quality of our chanting, But that's the reason why they say chant, devote a certain block of time. Chanting in the early morning, Brahma Muhurtam, that is the best time to do, because that time mind is less disturbed. But during the daytime, when you interact with the worldly minded people and all these things you have to do, you don't want, but still you have to do. And things happen, some bad news happens. You have argument with someone like that, then that disturbs. And that's what happened in the past. The past week I was telling you about that. Normally I forgive everything, but I like to. But the past week I was so disturbed. And these things happened. Something happened, and what? And it became excessively, really too harsh to one of the devotee. Uh, that later on I realized, and I cursed myself. So that particular night, whenever I'm disturbed, I usually go to bed and try to force myself to sleep. And when I recover the next morning, I realize what I've done. So immediately I offered my apology to that particular Vaishnava, that I did something wrong and truly repented. So when you do that, the Lord helps you from within. Don't artificially apologize. You really mean it, that you repented, that you did something wrong, especially these Vaishnavas. Vaishnava aparadha is so terrible. One has to really do the excessive, you have to do really out of your bound to prevent committing Vaishnava aparadha. And immediately Krishna said he will also not help in that regard. You have to go that particular Vaishnava and ask his or her forgiveness. And one who is a Vaishnava will forgive. So that shows I am still partly in a material platform. That tells me right there, So I have to complete. So that element I learned the hard way, that even forgiveness is one of the elements of devotional service. When you are conscious of these kind of elements, then your quality of a chanting will continue improving it. But it's easier said than done, because we have to live this material world and we have material body. Something happens all the time. So constantly take more and more shelter of not just the Lord, but his more advanced devotees, and follow in their footsteps. Anusharana. Don't copy them, anukarana. And so these are the only way to do it. And still the time will take. You have to give time. Utsahan nishayat dhairyat. Tat karma pravartanat. Utsaha with great enthusiasm, great determination, and with patience. Be patient. And it will happen. If you continue, you know the path. The directions are there that we are learning in Shastra. Okay. And continue following it. And with patience, it will come. Slowly, gradually, but it will come. Hare Krishna. Anything more?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Sometimes I'm losing that confidence. Yeah. These kind of sessions.
Yeah.
These kind of sessions will help. Thank you, Prabhu. Very good.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji. Dhanvat pranam.
Yeah.
Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
so
Samantha Mataji.
yeah, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Prabhuji, so what I understand from this particular course that we are doing, the whole essence is that immaterial, like we just have to judge ourselves all the time. We have to see that where we can fall and where we should not become a victim of Maya Devi. And we have to continuously, think ourselves that the whole attention should be on our conduct. And we shouldn't think that anybody is less than us, be it anybody, even a non-vegetarian person. We should never think, oh, we are greater. So if that thing is there, like we're only looking at our faults, and then gradually we are surrendering to Krishna, that he knows what is best, he knows what to do when. So we just have to follow our part, do our duty, and that's it.
Yes, exactly. Very nicely said, Samantha Mataji. Very nicely said. And that is what it just continue being engaged more and more. Whatever you're doing to serve the Lord and His devotees, that will help you your attention away from Maya, serving Maya. That is what happens. Very nicely done. I couldn't have said any better than what you did already. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, may
Any
I
other
add one
questions,
point,
comments?
Prabhuji, with Samta Mataji?
Yes, Raksha
Prabhuji,
Mataji. Yes,
Atma
please.
Nikshep. One particular
Yeah.
word is Atma Nikshep. So we have to see the fault in ourselves only. Don't see fault in anyone else. हमें हमारा ही फॉल्ट देखना है कि हम ही गलत कर रहे हैं, दूसरा का फॉल्ट नहीं देखना है. वो जो 6 सरेंडरेंस प्रोसेस है ना प्रभु जी, उसमें एक आत्म निक्षेप करके शब्द है, उसका मीनिंग ये बहुत ही बढ़िया मीनिंग है. दैट्स व्हाई आई एम टेलिंग, हमें हमारा ही फॉल्ट देखना है, दूसरे का नहीं देखना है.
Correct.
थैंक यू प्रभु जी. हरे कृष्णा.
Wonderful. Nice point. Thank you. Any other point before I turn it over to Sharad Prabhuji?
પ્રભુજી એક બીજો એક પોઈન્ટ છે પ્રભુજી, એક બીજી ડિફિકલ્ટી, दूसरी डिफिकल्टी ये है कि अगर more and more we have to do sadhu संग and less and less असत संग. तो मगर हम घर में जो है तो सब हमारे जो डिवोटी नहीं है उनके साथ रहना पड़ता है, और हम अगर उन्हें टाइम नहीं देते तो वो लोग हमसे बोलेंगे कि अभी आप अलग हो गए, हमसे मिलते, हमको टाइम नहीं देते. तो आई हैव टू गिव टाइम. मतलब विद इन माई सेल्फ मुझे लगता है कि मैं ये क्या कर रही हूँ, मेरा टाइम वेस्ट हो रहा है थोड़ा. और तो इसमें से हम कैसे बचे प्रभु जी?
Very important point.
Very difficult. Very
and
difficult.
it is difficult. It is challenging. Do your part, what is required of your duty, but you're doing that duty is still counted in the service of Krishna. Krishna will recognize that this is, you're doing it, but you're doing it out of great reluctance. So that takes your time away from serving Krishna and his devotees, because nothing is unknown, unseen by the Lord. He is constantly sitting in your heart. He is the witness. Everything, whatever you're doing, he is a witness. So he knows all these things, and you still continue doing your part. That is what I'm doing. I'm not perfect. Recognize that we are not perfect. And we are still on a training stage. We still have these training wheels, and continue operating that. Have that humility, humbleness, and you're prone to make mistakes. And that's why whenever we pray every day, our everyday prayers, we constantly ask the Lord that Nishadin, every day and night, I keep on making mistakes. So please, Lord, forgive me and help me and be with me. You are Rishikesh. I cannot control my senses. You take control of my senses. I am unable to control myself. So when you submit yourself, surrender yourself to the will of Krishna, that is the way to progress. That's what I have been taught by my superiors all the time. And that's what I'm repeating myself to you, what I heard. And these are very potent way to counter those challenges. Certain things you have to do. There are only 24 hours in the day, and you need more time. Where can you find? So you have to cut down something that is you are able to cut down reluctantly sometimes, most likely. But you have to do. See, I have so much work. Takes this preparing PowerPoints, preparing for these classes. This next lesson I'm working on, lesson 14. I've still not sent you because I'm still working. Very difficult lesson, that 14. It's so descriptive there. and I have to condense that, extract the important points to put it in my PowerPoints. So it has taken long time, Last night also I was saying, so you have to, but one positive things of this, and look, and positive things that I did not see before, that way Krishna is keeping me busy. He makes it harder for me to do these things, but more and more I devote the time to solve that thing. I'm being engaged in his service, and the service of his devotees, like all of you. I'm serving all of you also. So I'm glad, because now I don't have any free time to commit aparadhas. I don't have free time really. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Wonderful.
Thanks. Okay, Sharad Prabhuji, I'm sorry, just a few minutes.
Prabhuji, can you unshare the slide sharing?
The slide is not going away from my screen,
Okay.
Okay,
That doesn't matter. So yes.
Okay, now it's gone. Now it's gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Mayavadis, and if you have read the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, there is the statement by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says that Mayavadi Bhasya Sunile Bhaya Sarpanasa. If you hear the interpretation of Mayavadi, then you will destroy everything. Even devotional service will be destroyed. That's why we should be very, very careful about hearing the Mayavadis. But how do you recognize the Mayavadis? Because if you meet even the Mayavadis, they will also say the same thing as we are discussing, like, I am not the body, I am the soul, like all these things. They will also say the same thing. But what you should look for, somewhere, while talking, while explaining, they'll say some sentences like so-and-so person, or even myself, when I die, I'll merge with the Supreme Lord. This type of sentences, you should be very, very careful. Then you know he is a Mayavadi, and should not associate with him thereafter. Then we spoke of associating with worldly minded people, Athat Sangha. But in our day-to-day life, these the type of people are 99%. If you go anywhere else, to the marketplace or anywhere, any gathering, they will talk ill of the people, they will talk so many things which you do not like to hear. And then one may think, what should we do? We have to go through, we have to interact with those people also. But the answer is, interact as less as possible, to the extent it is possible, and not more than that. Then we spoke about the sannyasi and the grihastha. I want to give one example where a sannyasi, very high level sannyasi, very high level means you would not have heard about him, but when he was writing the commentary of Bhagavad Gita, the important points of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna used to come and explain to him. He's of that level. His name is Radha Baba, if you would have heard of Vrindavan only. And he had taken as his master, I was telling you the other day, Hanuman Prasad Poddar, who is known as Bhaiji, that is of Gita Press. This can happen. And at the end, when Bhaiji died, where he was cremated, Radha Baba, he made his heart there and stayed lifelong there. This is because respecting the greatness of a person. It is not because if somebody is a sannyasi, he is better than grihastha or like that. It is not like that. these great people, they'll remember, they'll recognize what goodness is there with the other person, and they will respect. Then regarding sannyasa, taking sannyasa without purification of the heart, because it will create social disturbance. I wanted to say more things about that, but there is no time today. We can talk tomorrow or someday when we get time. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Good. Thank you very much. Nice points. Good points. Since we're up now, time is up. So so let's conclude the class with Nishima prayer. Whosoever volunteers.
Sometime Mataji, you do.
Yeah.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadadaine. Praladadadaine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye, Shilatankanakalaye, To Narsimha, Parato Narsimha, To Narsimha, Parato Narsimha, Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha, Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha, Bhai Narsimha, Hridaye Narsimha, Bhai Narsimha, Hridaye Narsimha, Narasimhamudim Sharanam Prapatye, Narasimhamudim Sharanam Prapatye, Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam, Adbhuta Shringam, Dalita Hiranyakashipu, Tanubringam, Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Tavakara Kamalavare Nakham, Adbhuta Shringam, Dalita Hiranyakashipu, Tanubringam, Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Jagadish Hare, Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimhadev, Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Samata Mataji. Thank you, all of you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, all glories to all the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to try to send you the PowerPoints for lesson 14 as soon as possible, maybe in the next 2 to 3 hours, maybe hopefully, but definitely before class time. At least you'll have a chance to look it over. Until then, I wish you all the wonderful, wonderful time ahead. Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Sharad
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjeev Prabhuji.
Thank you, Chandra.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Chandra.